French President Emmanuel Macron visited the eastern region of Luxeuil-les-Bains earlier. It has a military base close to the border with Germany. His visit comes over a week after he called for defense spending to be ramped up. Macron announced that France would be ordering more Rafale fighter jets than planned.
L'armée française est à coup sûr l'armée la plus efficace du continent, oui.
France has without a doubt the most effective army on the continent, yes. The best equipped, the most comprehensive and the best trained. But we are pursuing this effort. It was indispensable to repair, to modernize and look ahead. As of the annual address to the army a few weeks ago, I asked our minister and army leadership to go further, and the acceleration of events drove me to take further decisions which are currently being studied. Yes, we're going to increase and accelerate our orders of Rafale jets.
Nous allons accroître et accélérer les commandes de Rafale.
We can now bring in France 24's Clovis Casali. Clovis, good to see you. What was the point of the president's visit to Luxeuil-les-Bains?
Well, very simple. This base will now be playing a key role in France's nuclear deterrence because by 2035, it will be home to two Rafale plane squadrons, fighter jets carrying nuclear weapons. And here the French president was announcing that there will be heavy investments, 1.5 billion euros in order to modernize this base. There will be the home also to 2,000 military men, women, as well as civilians. Luxeuil-les-Bains is playing a pivotal role in defending France and the Élysée Palace to defend the national soil, but also the allies of France, of course, Europe in particular. The Élysée has been working for months on the possibility that there would be a change in the United States and therefore a reshuffle of alliances, or at least changes in alliances with such a strong traditional ally that is the US. Emmanuel Macron's key advisors in terms of foreign policy were telling us we need to be ready if Donald Trump comes into power in the US. France and Europe needs to build up its own capabilities in order to defend itself, because the US are bound to take a step back, and that's exactly what we've been witnessing. And it's a chance for the Élysée Palace, and not just for France, but also for other European nations. That's what many people are now saying here in Europe. Donald Trump being at the White House is a chance for Europe to really come together and try to come up with a common approach in terms of defense, common defense. UK's out with Brexit, but UK's in terms of an alliance military-wise with Europe. And Keir Starmer this morning was speaking to Donald Trump. There are reports of that, where he was telling Donald Trump, please make sure in your talks with Vladimir Putin today on the phone that Ukraine stays in the most favorable position as possible, as we are possibly nearing peace in Ukraine. Who knows?
Who knows what's going to happen with that phone conversation, because Donald Trump has been in office for still less than 2 months now, Clovis. It seems like he's been in power for longer. But he has said in the past, and while he's been back in office, that European powers need to do more and spend more on defense, and he will not let European powers freeload off NATO.
And Europe is very much aware of this and knows that it's important also to rearm, because the US are taking a step back, but also because the Russian threat is more alive than ever, if you will. France, Europe have been suffering from cyber attacks from Russia. There have been reports of that in recent months, in recent years, and very much is on the door. The Russian threat is on the doorstep of many EU member states, notably Poland, but also Finland. So a few figures possibly we'll be talking about later, but France is spending 2% of its GDP on military affairs spending. It wants to go up to 3 or 3.5%. Poland in 2024 was already at 4.2% of its GDP, and Finland 2.41%. Why? Because those two countries in particular see the Russian threat as on its doorstep. Let's take a listen now to someone at the European level in charge of defense and space. It's the EU Commissioner, Mr. Kubilius, and he was talking to our Europe editor, Armin Georgian, last week. Very interesting, because he sums up the position of many EU member states. Take a listen.
It was better to do it earlier, but now it's time to ramp up, to speed up, and what I call to do the job which is very much needed in a big bang approach, not any more incremental approach. We need to produce weapons, enough weapons for us to be ready to defend ourselves, and to deter against possible Russian aggression. What our intelligence services are predicting that it can come during the next 5 years.
So, Clovis, what are Europe's plans for you ramping up defense spending?
Well, you heard the EU Commissioner saying we need to produce more weapons. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, ever since the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, has been saying we need to reopen our factories, make weapons on French soil again, or at least kickstart in what he's calling a war effort, in order to not have to rely on foreign powers like the US, but be able to produce enough weapons for our other EU member states, for our other allies, and for Emmanuel Macron and other European leaders. Not rely on fighter jets from the US, for instance, and maybe more on the Rafale, the French design ones. And it's important also the role of Germany. The new chancellor, the future chancellor, Friedrich Merz, has just designed a bazooka investment plan. That's what experts are calling it. It's being debated in Parliament, but he's already said a few minutes ago that it should benefit EU companies, that this huge investment is a response to Russia's war against Europe. It's the first step towards a new European defense community. What is this big investment plan by Germany, possibly that will be agreed upon by lawmakers? 500 billion euros over 12 years for new infrastructures and for security. Obviously, it should benefit EU companies first and foremost, and also notably France, who does manufacture and produce weapons and arms.
Clovis, thank you very much for that. Clovis Casali there.